we
New
do.
Mexico, right?
Yes.
And I'd like
He didn't
to...
high five you back. I got you.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, sorry.
It was a question. I raised my hand a lot.
Do you have pets?
I have five.
Five? What are
Five of
they?
them. I have a German Shepherd mix. She's 17 years old. I thought she was about to die,
Oh.
but it turns out she just had a really, really bad kidney and bladder infection. So she's preparing me for her death, if that makes sense, right?
Oh.
So I did my crying already. And then I have a poodle who's 4 years old, standard poodle, and she's also very sick and she has cancer at this point. So we're dealing with that as well. And then I have 2 Labradoodles and I have a Poolie, an American Poolie, she's my youngest. She's my second oldest, but my smallest at 15 pounds. Otherwise, everybody else is 60 pounds.
Yeah, really?
So,
Wow.
Yeah, 2 people and 5 dogs. It's like living with a huge family.
It is.
So yeah, they're my fur babies.
So tell us about some hidden talents. I know you've got several.
Ugh.
Tell us about a couple, maybe.
Well, in that case, let me strip that from my talk. All right, so
No. Okay, then you can.
I can share all my talents with you.
Does this mean we get a new talk?
Yes. So first things first, as Olivia can attest, I speak many languages. I speak French is my second language. I also speak Spanish. That's my third language. And I speak enough Russian to get slapped in the face to ask you out. So with that in mind, so I speak a lot of languages. I also, which is part of my speech, I am a violinist as well. I created my own nonprofit orchestra here in town called the Phoenix Renaissance Orchestra for 30-plus-year-olds to get together and reconnect with their string instruments after not having played with them for almost 20 years. So it's a judge-free zone. You don't have to audition. You just got to learn how to know how to read music and play an instrument, and that's all that matters for us. Some of my other many talents that I do, I'm an awesome gamer online, so I play a lot of online games.
What's your favorite game?
Right now, I'm playing The Division. That's what I'm playing right now, and I also love SimCity. Like I grew up playing that on the Apple Macintosh SE, I believe, when it was for the blocks, and now I play it on the PlayStation 4. So I followed it through its transition, but too many talents to tell you
All right.
about.
Well, go on, educate
Commence?
us now.
You want to be educated?
Yes.
All right. I have to preface by saying this, that what I'm about to share with you is dangerous.
Oh.
What I'm also about to share with you is that you need to consult with a tax expert or a tax attorney on all matters that I say. And anything I tell you should not be construed as tax advice, plain and simple, unless it's written down. I'm also going to share a lot of information with you, so you might want to take some notes. It's going to come out fast, it's going to come out quick. And last but not least, I'm making this shit up as I go. So, and why that's important is because I just changed my entire speech. So, here we go. Ready? What if I told you that your accountant may have missed over $300,000 in legal deductions that you were entitled to take last year? How would you feel about that? How would you react knowing that the guy or the woman that you paid as a CPA or as a tax attorney or as an IRS enrolled agent, that they missed out over $300,000 of legal deductions that the IRS wrote into law that will allow you to deduct? Anybody?
What if he didn't make over 300,000? I would think that he didn't do it right. I don't know. That was my first thought.
Well, I'd be a little upset.
Yes, that's the correct answer.
Yeah.
That is the answer.
Trying to picture 300,000.
And that is the answer that I do get a lot from my clients. What that $300,000 in missed deductions adds up to is a whopping $141,000 in overpaid taxes to the government. So I ask you, what would you do with $141,000 that you didn't have to give to the government?
I wish I made enough so that I could get that much back.
So this particular client that I'm sharing you with makes about $900,000 in gross revenue. She's a public speaker, and she missed out on these deductions from her prior accountant, which resulted in overpaying $141,000, not just last year, but year after year after year after year. Hi, I'm Jonathan Bangle, and I'm the founder of JB Financial. I'm also the host and founder of Naked Tax Talk, where we openly come together and get naked and talk about our positive development, our business development, and our taxes. Because this is what I know to be true. When we fix who we are as a person, individually, when we clean up the self-guilt and the self-shame and all that shit that comes along with being a person, it reflects in our business. Our business reflects who we are, what we stand for, what we believe in. And as a result, our taxes and our cash reflect all of that as well. So what I do is I help people to uncover the secrecy of those faults, to find out exactly why we're so guilty. Why do we feel so much shame? And it simply comes from because of ourselves. And so one thing I know to be true is we step into our own power and we accept ourselves for who we are. There are no words and there are no actions that can take us away from who we really are meant to be in this world. For the past 16 years, I've created a multi-six-figure company. I've created jobs, and I've saved millions of dollars in taxes for my clients. I'm a certified tax coach. And what does that mean? Well, how many of us have signed up for a gym membership? How many of us actually have gone to it all the time? Exactly. Now, when I hired my first personal trainer, I actually went to the gym every 2 weeks because I was held accountable, because I had the support that made sure that I was doing what I was doing. And here's the thing, as a certified tax coach, I'm going to hold your hand and I'm going to support you and I'm going to give you the guidance that you need on a month-to-month basis, because here's the reality. Dating the IRS, it's terrible. They're a terrible date. They always change their mind left and right. The rules are always changing all the time. And so someone like myself likes to date guys like that. And so we turn around and we give you guys the information as it gets updated in real time. I'm also a certified tax planner. What that means is that we spend the time to actually plan your future. Because here's the thing. Most business owners do not know what their tax liability is going to be like at the end of the year. Most have no idea how they're going to make the next thing happen. When you're ready to make a six-figure company or a seven-figure company, it requires somebody to sit with you as an expert to show you how to utilize the tax law to free up the money that was already given to the government, to use it to then hire the people who can come and work for you so that you can do the things that you want to do, which is deliver your message, which is to get out there and tell the world what it is that you do, so that you don't create a job, so that you are an entrepreneur and so that you are free to realize and to do the things that you were meant to do in this life. So today, entrepreneurs hire me as their chief tax strategist because most lack the right tax strategies to outsmart the IRS. Tax strategies are not one ideas. They're not one entities, like I'm just an LLC, or I'm just an S corporation, or I'm just a corporation. Tax strategies are not just one deduction. Deduct the house, deduct the car, deduct whatever else the case may be. It is like walking to the door and closing it. So here's the thing. Most people lack also the right write-offs and the right deductions. There are over 400 deductions you are legally entitled to. As a matter of fact, I've spent 39,000 hours as an IRS enrolled agent. What that means is that when shit hits the fan, you have somebody here who can defend you. And more importantly, who has studied the law so massively importantly, deeply, something or another, to change that. I digress. Taxes. So what I do is I help to unlock the mystery of taxation. But here's the thing. Taxes, there's no secret to it. As a matter of fact, it's Title 26 of the United States Code. There are 26 chapters, A through Z. And if you were curious to find out where we hear the word S, corporation, comes from, it comes from the subchapter S of the Title 26 of the United States Tax Code. So people can go and look this up. But why would you do that when in fact you could get a direct transmission of the knowledge and information that I've spent the time to do? So we also uncover legal loopholes because that's important. The rich keep getting richer, not because they keep making more money. Yes, that's a tribute to it, but because they know how to utilize the tax code to their benefit. For example, splitting out income. My companies, for example, are multitudes. Right now, if you are sitting in your companies, you should have at least 2 to 3 entities. And why that's important is because it's called protecting your assets. It's called protecting you against anybody who wants to sue you. But at a minimum, if you're an entrepreneur, you should have 3 entities. 3. Here's another thing that people miss out all the time on the legal loophole. If I'm already dating my boyfriend or my girlfriend, in my case, married to my husband, why am I not employing them and make them work for me? That's exactly what we do. As a matter of fact, when you do this, you can actually mitigate 15.3% in taxes right off the bat. Now, of course, restrictions do apply, but I digress. It's one strategy. The other thing is that we also help to reveal missed opportunities. And what I mean by that is looking back at your prior returns and showing you that your accountants may have missed $300,000 worth of deductions that you were entitled to. Or perhaps your tax bill was overpaid by $141,000 a year. So what we do is we help you to devise a very strategic plan to free up the cash that you already paid the government from last year. Because here's what the law says. Well, my interpretation of it. The government doesn't want your money. It doesn't want it. And it's written the law that way. If you are an entrepreneur, it rewards you for taking the risk. Simple as that. So we free up the cash that was tied up, and then we turn around and we devise a plan to keep you guys from paying those taxes year after year. As a matter of fact, the Accounting General Office stated just recently that Americans pay unnecessarily over $1 billion in taxes because of errors made by the taxpayers themselves. These are the ones that like to do it themselves and to go through certain softwares. Or perhaps they go to somebody who's cheaper than the guy next door. And here's what I can tell you. As a certified tax planner, I'm not a cost to doing business. I am a return on your investment. Because the truth of the matter is without someone like myself, you will pay, and you are overpaying on your taxes. And here's the thing, the money's already going to the government. I'm just gonna help keep it from going. I'm gonna keep a little bit for myself, for my knowledge, and you keep the rest to go do the things that you wanna do. So with that, I leave the floor open to any questions.
Woo, that was so good.
Why isn't he on one of your panels?
I just met him.
I was like,
My speaker bureau.
I know, I'm like, whoa, I'm blown away.
You guys remind me of each other, actually.
What? Yes. I had to go more conservative over time. I used to, so yes, yes.
I could see you.
Good
I could.
reflection. What?
I could see that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a thespian,
what
I was in.
Yeah.
You know, I loved acting.
What are the three entities you said that everyone should have?
You should have the 3 entities. So 3 entities. So free tax tips. Here we go. Are you ready? And just the tip. So here's the thing. You need 3. You need one that actually conducts the business itself. All right. So in my particular case, I have a company, JB Financial. JB Financial does all of the tax planning, the tax work, the accounting work, the bookkeeping work, the business development work. It does all of that work. Technically, it's Paige, but I digress. So JB Financial does this, and we also partner up with other CPA firms as well. So we do a lot of this type of work. The second company should act as one that signs contracts on your behalf, especially if you're a public speaker. If you're going to be out there speaking, for example, you need to have another company that signs all the contracts, and it doesn't necessarily hold any assets, and it handles all of the income coming in expenses as it relates to that particular event. If you're just another entrepreneur, like for example yourself, a book company, so you might have an entity for the publishing section of it, an entity for the interviewing section of it, the entity for the. So the idea here is entities create protection, and because of my show, my talk show is called Naked Tax Talk. I use a very terrible analogy, but I promise you will not forget it. Would you like me to share it with you?
Yes.
Well, of course, we're all terrible.
Here we go. First things first. I like to say that entities are like, it's like having sex. And here's why.
Yeah, we need 3 different people. No, I'm just kidding.
Here's why, exactly. You need 3 different people. And only in taxes can I actually be married to many other people. And only in taxes do I get to go back in time and have a good time. But I digress. So the first one is when you have sex with somebody for the first time with no protection, we call this unprotected sex. And all it takes is one time to get a nice, good, nasty little infection. When you do business for yourself and you have no protection, that's equivalent. And some of the stuff you might get might be just maybe a little minor UTI, all the way to hepatitis C, life-threatening. It's equivalent. Now, an LLC is different, limited liability company. And I like to say it's kind of like using like a dental dam, pardon this. But a dental dam, stuff still kind of comes out from the side. You can still maybe get sick, but the chances are really, really drastically reduced. And that's the same thing too in business. When you set up the LLCs, it drastically reduces your liabilities because it's harder to get to what the lawyers and so forth are trying to get after. The third one, I like to stands for the word C for the condom, which is 99.99% effective, which is true of the corporation. So if you're ultimately trying to protect everything, you're forming a corporation to protect everything because it's that much more difficult to get at the assets. But just like somebody who can pierce a condom and put it on, so too can the corporation be pierced. And how do we pierce it? By commingling our funds. That's how we pierce it. And so lawyers that are really smart and savvy, they know this, and it destroys all of the protections. And so it's as if you were just operating as a sole proprietor. So we have different entities for different protections, and then it gets more complicated because now we're protecting your asses, but now Uncle Sam wants to get a cut of your pie, right? So this dude comes in, he's like, gimme, gimme, gimme. So then we get savvy and we say, guess what? We're gonna create 3 entities. One is gonna be in charge of self-management, one's gonna be in charge of rentals, and one is gonna be in charge of running the business. Oh, and by the way, Uncle Sam, you allow us to do something called a self-rental rule where I get to rent from one company to the next. And I also get to lease employees out to the same companies that I happen to own. That creates income that flows back and forth, but yet creates losses on the books, which means I get less taxes to pay.